What's up, agents? Zer here. Welcome back to the lab. I've got some exciting news for you guys. The brand new Aquatic update is finally here. Now, this is not without some downsides. Actually, technically only one real downside. Mojang is actually going to be releasing these updates in phases, so we do not actually have absolutely everything as of right now, but I will at least give props to Mojang for deciding to do it this way, because otherwise the Aquatic update would be a super massive update. So we have the first phase, which includes, well, it does include a boatload of features, but as I mentioned, not absolutely everything. Now, I am going to go ahead and mention that I am not going to be discussing everything in this update, and that's for two reasons. Number one, I actually have certain things of which I am not going to be able to discuss in this lab because I don't have things set up in order to be able to do that. I'm actually going to be doing another episode of Zer0's lab where we're going to be taking a little bit of a field trip so we can take a look at some other features. And secondly, I actually have already discussed some of the features that are included inside of this update before. A while back, Mojang released an update to 1.2, which include experimental gameplay features which allow players who were not able to join the beta, either that or they didn't want to join the beta, look at some of the brand new Aquatic update features. And I already did a video regarding those experimental features, so there are things that are going to be in that particular video, which by the way will be in the description, that are in fact part of this update, and I'm not going to be discussing them in this video. If you want to learn more information about stripped logs, if you want to learn about the prism stairs and slabs, if you want to learn about the trident, and if you want to learn about the new swimming animation, make sure to check out those things in the description below and check out that other video. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. So first up, we have a lot of the mobs. Well, actually, we have 5 mobs of which we have been introduced in the game. And something I should probably mention is that oceans now have individual biomes. It's no longer just an ocean biome. There are individual biomes within oceans. There's like cold ocean biomes, warm ocean biomes. There's even like deeper ocean biomes. Basically, a whole bunch of different biomes for oceans and water. And these guys, the fish that I'm just about to go ahead and discuss with you guys, they all spawn in different ocean biomes. I'm not entirely sure where all of them are supposed to spawn, but I do know for a fact they spawn in different types of ocean biomes, so keep that in mind. So first off, we have ourselves the cod. I'm not entirely sure where these guys are actually supposed to spawn, I'll be completely honest, but these are basically replacing normal fish. So you guys should know by now that I'm a huge fan of fishing in Minecraft, so these are the basic normal fish that you would get from fishing. And I gotta say, I like the texture behind these guys a lot. They look really cool. Next up, we have ourselves the salmon. These guys, I actually do know where they're supposed to spawn. They actually spawn in cold water biomes, so depending on where you are, you're either going to have to travel really far or not really far at all. And I actually had a little bit of trouble getting this guy to be in here in the first place because of how big the salmon are actually. Because if you guys see these guys out in the wild, you're going to spot them pretty easily because of how big they are. So just keep that in mind. Now, something I found out is that alongside of dropping themselves, which by the way, all these fish, as you would obviously guess, they drop themselves when killed. I found out that apparently salmon will also drop bones. So previously you had skeletons and strays that's dropped bones. Now you have another mob that drops bones, and you have salmon. So yeah, you get another source of bones from them. So that's actually kind of interesting. Next up, we have ourselves the tropical fish, and these guys are really interesting because this is not the only type of tropical fish in the game. They come in a wide variety of color combinations, and they also come in a variety of models. So no two fish you're ever going to find are going to be easily the same. I mean, there are chances of two different tropical fish being the same, but it's not going to be super easy. There's a lot of RNG determining what color they're going to end up being and what model they're going to end up being, but this is basically what they are going to be like. And they spawn, as far as I'm aware, in warmer water biomes, so keep that in mind. They do swim in massive schools, so if you see one, you're going to see a whole bunch of them. Next up, we have ourselves the pufferfish, and I gotta say, these guys are actually pretty cool, because I gotta say, these guys actually look kind of cute, and they're not exactly a nice fish to be around, because if you get close to them in survival mode, they will puff up, and if you touch them while you're swimming around, they will give you a poison effect, which makes a lot of sense, because normally when you eat pufferfish in normal Minecraft, it gives you a poison effect, so it makes sense that when you touch one of these guys, it will give you a poison effect as well. And something I kind of noticed is that they have a slow deflate process. They have two stages. They have this stage, they get a little bit smaller, and then they go back to their smallest size. I actually did not realize that about them. Now, next up, we have ourselves our last mob introduced as of this particular phase of the update. This is the dolphin. Now, dolphins have quite a lot of features built into them. First off, if you're traveling by boat, they will swim alongside your boat and swim with you. They're incredibly curious creatures, which in reality, in real life, they are in fact curious creatures, and I like that a lot about them. Supposedly, when you're swimming with them in the water, not in the boat, but actually swimming with them, supposedly they are able to give you a status effect which allows you to swim better. I can neither confirm nor deny, because I haven't experienced this myself, but that is something that I have in fact read, and there is actually something else that they are able to do, and that has something to do with one of the brand new water mechanics. One of the new water mechanics is that items will actually float to the top of water, which is actually something Mojang has been needing to implement for a while, and these guys will chase and play with floating island items, and that is actually a really cool feature. So they are incredibly curious creatures, as I mentioned. Now, they are supposedly susceptible to drowning, and I'm surprised this guy has actually been able to survive as long as he has. They are susceptible to drowning. They do require air in order to survive. And one final thing about the dolphins is that these guys are actually neutral creatures. While they may seem enjoyable to have around, if you attack them, they are not going to be happy with you. In fact, it's not going to be just the dolphin that you attack that's going to be angry with you. It's also going to end up being any other dolphin in the area that's going to get mad with you. So it's pretty much the same thing as a wolf or a zombie pygmy. You attack one of them, they're all going to be mad at you, except these guys are the aquatic version. So keep that in mind. So do not attack the dolphins, because otherwise, yeah, that's going to end up happening. So that's it for all the mobs in the game. Now we're going to be discussing all the new items in the game, and there's a lot of new items in the game. I've pretty much got every single wing of the lab set up in order to discuss this stuff. And the first thing that we're going to be taking a look at is the Heart of the Sea. Now, as far as I'm aware, these things only spawn in treasure chests. I could be wrong if they spawn somewhere else. I don't actually know that for sure, but they spawn in treasure chests, and as of right now, these do not do anything. They're actually part of a crafting recipe to create something called a conduit. However, in order to craft a conduit, you actually are required to have a second crafting item, which is not currently implemented just yet. So the Heart of the Sea doesn't do anything, but in a future update to the Aquatic update, they will in fact have a purpose. Keep that in mind. Next up, we have ourselves the pumpkin, and I know these guys have been in the game for a long time, but they actually have a brand new texture. So let me go ahead and walk around this guy. you don't actually see anything special about this pumpkin, but actually Mojang decided to make it so that when these guys grow, by default, they do not have a face on them, which is something Mojang has been needing to implement for a long time. If you guys want to get a face in a pumpkin, you need shears, and go ahead and use your shears on the pumpkin, and that will give you your pumpkin face. It's actually really smart because pumpkins, real life, they don't come with the faces on them. This is something that they need to implement for a while, and as you can tell when you shear them and get the face, you in fact get yourself some pumpkin seeds. So that is actually a really nice feature that I like a lot. I don't know why Mojang didn't implement this sooner. In fact, I don't know why Mojang didn't even implement this when they first put the pumpkin into the game, but now we have that available to us. Next up we have another new item, kelp. This is actually an aquatic plant which we're going to be discussing a little bit later. I've got something set up not only in the vehicle bay but also a little bit inside of the testing room, and this is basically like grass, basically. Actually no, it's not even that, but it is a new plant, and it acts similar to sugarcane. And if you smelt kelp in a furnace, you will get yourself dried kelp, and you can actually eat dried kelp. It does not fill up very many hunger points, and from what I understand, it also only takes a short amount of time to eat, whereas other items take a lot longer. So that's dried kelp. And if you combine dried kelp in a 3x3 square like this in the crafting table, you get yourself a dried kelp block. And this is what the dried kelp block looks like. And I like the way this looks a lot. This is basically like a plant type of block. And I'm pretty sure if I try to walk around on this a little bit, you're actually going to hear a grass sound effect. I'm not entirely sure if it's actually grass or if it's supposed to be something else, but they do have that sound effect. And we also have ourselves another new block, and this is blue ice. Now, blue ice can be crafted by taking a 3x3 square in the crafting table of regular packed ice, and you will get blue ice, but that is not the only way that you can get blue ice. There's a brand new type of biome in the game, and that is an iceberg biome, which is basically similar to an ice spike biome, except it's in the ocean, and it's not even in spikes, and it's like giant like mountains and stuff, and they actually go not only above the water but below the water. They will spawn with both packed ice and blue ice, so you can craft the blue ice, but you can also just get them naturally in the world. And something that I did find out about the blue ice is that they are actually much more slippery than packed ice. So that is something to keep in mind. They have a lot more, they are a lot more slippery than packed ice. So let's go ahead and go into the testing room, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys some more of the features. So as you can tell, I set up a little bit of a pool for the fish to swim around in, so you guys can see what they actually look like in their normal swimming poses. So that actually looks not too bad. And it also, as you can tell, there is a lot of aquatic plants down in there. There is seagrass, there is kelp, there is coral fans, there are pieces of coral, and there are also sea pickles. So I realize it's not easy to see underwater, but once you get a clearer view, once you're in the water long enough, you can more easily see any of these items. And I've actually got pretty much everything already inside of this chest ready to go ahead and discuss. So we've got ourselves coral, which come in 5 varieties, and they come in 3 variants of coral. They come in coral, they come in coral fans, and they come in coral blocks, which I'm actually going to be discussing when we get into the obsidian chamber. I did not mean to go ahead and break that. I pressed the wrong button. Alright, sorry about that. But yeah, we have stuff in the obsidian chamber for us to go ahead and take a look at. So we're going to be looking at the coral blocks when we get that far. So let me go ahead and show you guys. So the coral themselves, they look like normal like plants, and they come in 5 varieties. And then these coral fans, they have a much different model, and the fans can actually be placed on both the tops of blocks, and they can also be put on the sides of blocks. So that is one thing to keep in mind. And there are 5 varieties, as I mentioned. There is the fire coral, which is red, the pink is brain coral, bubble coral is purple, tube coral is blue, and horn coral is yellow. And then we also have seagrass, which is essentially the same as tall grass on land, except in water. And one thing to keep in mind about seagrass is that they can in fact be double tall. I do not think they can be triple tall, but they can in fact be double tall. And that is actually something really cool. And we also have these taller plants, which are the kelp. We saw the kelp earlier on the item frames, and these grow similar to that of sugarcane, except they grow in water. Now, I do not think they really have any limitation as to how high they can grow. However, they are not actually able to grow outside of the water. So even though I just said they don't have a limit to how high they can grow, they are technically limited. If that makes any sense, probably doesn't. And I have seen a few videos on how to harvest kelp because of the new water mechanics. Actually, let me go ahead and show you guys what this looks like. So if I go ahead and throw this in the water, this is actually gonna start to float up. That is actually one of the new mechanics. So now items will float, and because of this mechanic, you can actually harvest kelp in a way similar to that of sugarcane. You can use pistons and water in order to harvest them. I've seen a video on how to do that, and it's actually really cool. And the last plant that we have to discuss is the sea pickle. Now, you've kind of already seen a few of these sea pickles down here on the bottom. This is what they look like. These are basically underwater torches, and they can be stacked up to 4 per block. So let me go ahead and show you guys. So if I place one sea pickle here, this is what it looks like. Now, one thing I do want to go ahead and mention is that depending on how many sea pickles that you have in one block will actually determine how much light it outputs. So one single sea pickle doesn't output a whole lot of light. You put in 2 sea pickles, it outputs a little bit more light. A little bit more light if you have 3 sea pickles, and I'm fairly certain that 4 sea pickles pull out a full output of 15 blocks of light. So that is actually one thing to keep in mind. Now, sea pickles can in fact be placed on land. However, first off, as you can tell, they don't have that little thing in the center, and they do not give off light. You're still able to combine them in sets of 4, but again, on land, they do not give off light. Now, there's one final thing that I want to go ahead and mention, and that's how you can actually transport fish around, because fish in the creative inventory, they do not have spawn eggs. You actually have to put them in a bucket of water. I'm going to be discussing that right now. So if I go ahead and swim up to a fish, you have to have a bucket of water, as I mentioned. And when you swim up to a fish, go ahead and click on the fish and take a look at that. I now have a bucket of salmon. So now I'm actually able to spawn this salmon pretty much wherever I want. I'm just going to go ahead and put him back in the water for right now. But that is how you move fish around. So that is one thing to keep in mind. And I actually want to go ahead and put this salmon back. There we go. So I do want to go and mention that you can only spawn in 1 per bucket if you're in survival mode. Obviously, I'm in creative mode, so I could spawn in a lot more if I want. That is something you do have to keep in mind. It's pretty much like anything else in survival. You can only use it once. Now, we have a few more features that we're going to be discussing, and I have one final feature in the obsidian chamber, as I mentioned, that I'm going to be showing you guys in a little bit. First off, we have some brand new water mechanics. This tub that I built is made out of stairs and slabs. So now you're actually able to fill in the air gaps with water, and you can actually do this just by simply putting blocks underwater. They no longer spawn with air gaps. However, if you spawn them above land, they're obviously going to have air gaps, but you can put water in them, and that's actually a really cool feature, and that is not limited to just stairs and slabs. You can also do that with things such as fence posts. You can do that with iron bars. I think you can do it with end rods. I cannot confirm, but you can do this by simply taking a water bucket and putting it onto the actual block itself. So I put water bucket onto the fence post. As you expect, it actually creates a water source on the fence post, and now it is flowing. And one thing I did find out about this is that you can actually use pistons to move the water source block around. So you could actually have a number of different things that you could use this for. This is actually a really cool feature in my opinion, that you can actually now legit move water sources around. That's actually really cool. There is one other feature that you can do with the water, and that's actually using bone meal. I tested this out on the normal vehicle bay floor and it didn't work, but I did test it out on sand and it works. If you use bone meal underwater and you use it on blocks, it will actually spawn in seagrass, and occasionally it'll spawn in the regular coral, which is actually kind of cool. And as I mentioned, you can in fact have double tall seagrass, so that is something to keep in mind. So bone meal on the bottom of water, it's not on all blocks as far as I could figure out, but you can do it on sand. I'm assuming you can do it on gravel because water ocean biomes will in fact have gravel as well. So it spawns in seagrass, both single and double tall, and occasionally coral as well. So that is actually a really interesting feature in my opinion. You can actually now decorate the bottoms of different water bodies of water using bone meal, which is actually really nice. And the last thing that we're going to be discussing is block coral, which I have everything already set up inside of the obsidian chamber. This is actually kind of cool in my opinion. So we have ourselves the 5 different variants of coral, and they're all underwater. And one thing I did find out is they actually are required to be submerged in water in order for them to be able to maintain their color, because if they are not in water, they will actually eventually die and turn gray. And this isn't just placing them on land. If they're exposed to air at all, they will in fact die. So they have to be completely submerged in water in order for this to work. And I actually found out that apparently, if I go into the creative inventory, I can go ahead and show you the sea plants. We have the regular coral, we have the coral fans, which come in dead varieties as well. And if I remember correctly, yeah, if I can remember where the coral blocks are located, yeah, here they are. So you have the dead varieties of the coral in the creative menu as well. So if you guys want to create a dead coral reef for whatever reason, you don't have to kill them off manually. You can just spawn them in already dead, which I'm not entirely sure why you would do that, because I think they look really cool when they're alive. I don't like them a lot when they're dead, because that's a bit unfortunate for the coral themselves. But yeah, there's the coral blocks. But other than that, that's actually all there is to this Aquatic update, at least what I'm able to show off in the lab. Again, I'm going to be doing a field trip episode where we're going to be taking a look at some of the other features. And again, there are still features that I did not discuss that were in fact part of the experimental gameplay that I did a while back. But other than that, that's actually where I'm going to go ahead and end off the video. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you did, make sure that like button. One more, make sure that subscribe button for future content. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at AgentCPO0 to stay updated. This has been Zer0's. Thank you guys for watching, and with that, I will see you guys later.